What's up, y'all? My name is JR, and for those of you who don't already know, I'm a huge movie and TV nerd. If you're new here, I appreciate you taking the time to check out my channel. I hope you'll consider sticking around and joining the film community I'm trying to build here on YouTube. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing my biggest narrative beef as it pertains to Kurt Sutter and Sons of Anarchy. And just so you guys know, this video will contain spoilers, so if for some reason you haven't gotten around to watching this show yet and you don't want to know anything that happens in it, you might want to exit this video now. And with that being said, no more wasting time. Let's get into it. So if you've been here with me for a while, then you know that Sons of Anarchy is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Like top 100. As in my top 100 TV shows, that is. That being said, the show wasn't perfect. I mean, there aren't any shows that are. But I had a few beefs with this show big enough to mention out loud. And I wanted to take the moment to talk about the biggest one in this video. Now, one of the biggest plot points in the show's 7-season run was the one concerning the death of John Teller. That it was Clay Morrow in conjunction with Gemma that killed John. Now, Jax learned that by reading a manuscript that JT left behind. He found it in the pilot episode while he was cleaning out an old storage space right after Abel was born, prematurely, I might add. And Gemma, later in the season, found the manuscript while she was going through some of Jax's things, and she burned it to keep Jax from learning the truth about his father's death. Now, we find out in the season 1 finale that Piney also had a copy of John's manuscript, with him being John's best friend and all. So he knew all along that, at the very least, John was afraid that Clay would kill him. And at worst, Clay actually did kill him. Now, in season 2, Piney began to press Jax about pushing to be club president so that he could change the trajectory of the club, ultimately fulfilling his destiny and protecting his father's legacy. Now, towards the end of season 3, as the club was leaving Belfast, the Belfast episodes were some of my favorite, by the way, but Maureen Ashby put a bunch of letters from John into Jax's backpack. Letters that Tara ultimately found while Jax and the other members were in jail because of their shootout with Ethan Zobel and the Aryans at the Marauder Christian Center. That completely changed her relationship with Gemma. Now, Tara kept the secrets she learned from the letters because Jax told her in the season 4 premiere that he planned to step away from the club and move away with her and their 2 sons. So Tara kind of wanted to give Jax a chance to do what he promised. But when Clay and Gemma fell out in season 4 over Tara's botched abduction, you might remember, the cartel attempted to take Tara. I mean, they were cartel/CIA, but Tara and Jax didn't know that at the time, so in Tara's mind, this was an actual abduction. But Gemma gave Jax the letters, after she had taken out the ones that implicated her in John's death, of course. And she asked him to kill Clay and take his place at the head of Sam Crow, in the hopes of keeping Jax and her grandsons in Charming. During their conversation, Gemma told Jax that the first time Clay tried to kill JT, he sent them into a Mayan ambush unprotected, but that he made it out alive. She told Jax the second attempt Clay made on JT's life involved him getting Lowell Sr. to mess with his bike, hoping that he would die in a wreck, which is the story that we, the audience, were made to believe. You may remember that midway through season 1, we find out that Lowell Harlan Sr.'s body was found buried along a highway alongside Mayan corpses. And Lowell Sr. was a mechanic at Teller Morrow, and his son Lowell Jr. had a similar position in the TV show's first season. Now, when Lowell Jr. found out that his father was buried amongst the Mayan dead, he went on a drug-fueled binge, and Clay tracked him down, I believe, in Lodi, and he threatened him. But he didn't kill him. And we know that because he was seen later in the season 1 finale at Donna Winston's funeral. So it's safe to say that Lowell Jr. lived, though it was the last time we saw him in the series. Now, in the 6th season of the show, Tara tells Nero that Clay and Gemma killed JT, which made Nero confront Gemma and ask her about it outright. Now, Gemma responded by telling Nero that JT wanted out of guns and that he had been traveling back and forth to Belfast using Father Ashby as a go-between with the Irish Kings in order to facilitate a smooth transition to that end. But that Clay and McGee found out, and they went behind his back and solidified the gun trade for the club, made them players. She also mentioned that John had fallen in love with Maureen Ashby while he was in Belfast, and we found out in season 3, if you guys recall, that John had a child with Maureen, Trinity, Jax's younger half-sister. And Gemma tells Nero that Thomas, her other son, her youngest son, died while John was away, and that she made sure he felt the weight of his betrayal upon his return. She also tells Nero that when Clay and Keith decided that John's regret about what the club had become had turned from a minor inconvenience to major doubts about his loyalty, that she gave Clay her blessing to kill him. Now, Kurt Sutter, I say Kurt Sutter because he's the showrunner, he tells us this truth, and then he doubles and even triples down on the tale. In fact, a lot of rather disastrous things take place throughout the series because of this one plot point. It can be argued that this is the plot point that drives the entirety of the story. So I was more than disappointed when we find out in the final season that JT may have simply committed suicide, and that Jax ultimately decides to go out the exact same way. Now, could JT have killed himself? Sure he could have. But if that's the case, why would the writers have Clay and Gemma basically cop to killing him more than once? In my opinion, it was a major writing mistake on a show where there weren't very many of those. It's the biggest problem that television shows have, in my opinion, because there tend to be a lot of writers, for logistical reasons, that come in and out of writers' rooms, especially over the course of a 7-season television show. And, those writers have schedules and deadlines and that kind of thing. So they have to churn out material a lot faster than, say, somebody who's freelance writing their own project or something like that, who can take time to kind of go over it 100 different times and make sure that all the plot points line up and that kind of thing. And, in most cases, an entire season is written and kind of locked before said season even begins filming. And, because of that fact, the writers, like I said, they don't get to watch the episode that precedes theirs and then go, now let me go write this script. They kind of have to just, be in contact with each other and kind of keep each other abreast to what exactly is going on and kind of work that way. And sometimes when you're doing things that way, important plot points get lost in the sauce, if you will. Now, it is said that Sutter wrote 60 or so of the show's 92 episodes. And don't get me wrong, I understand that he couldn't be there to stand over every other writer and make sure that the story's continuity stayed intact. But this mistake unraveled the show's tightly formulated narrative in the 11th hour of the series. And it had consequences. Big consequences, if you ask me. Maybe not enough to completely ruin the television show, because like I told you, this show, in my opinion, is still top 100. Especially in the eyes of a true fan. I mean, and I would count myself among them. But maybe just enough to ask yourself what exactly happened. It's really important to pay attention as a member of a writer's room, and things like this are why. Because JT's death was incredibly important to the story that we were being told, and it would be one thing if the change surrounding JT's death was a purposeful thing designed to shift the trajectory of the story right before the end. But usually in a case like that, there would be breadcrumbs to find throughout the series that would point to the change being inevitable, even if it's something that you, as an audience member, maybe missed upon first watch. But that's not what we get here. Here, we get the exact opposite, which leads me to believe that this wasn't the writers being smarter than all of us. It was simply a case of the writers losing the plot. But what do you guys think? Did you guys like the last-minute change to the story of JT's death in Sons of Anarchy? Did you even notice? Let me know in the comments. And for those of you that might be new to the channel, be sure to like and share this video. If you really like the content, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I drop a new video. Also, be sure to go and check out themaskscreenwriter.com for more television and film reviews and info on my upcoming film projects. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I got screenplays to write. And I'll catch y'all in the next video.